What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, going over the Fatebringer hand cannon and how it could become the next big thing in Destiny once the House of Wolves DLC drops. Now, thankfully, Bungie has learned their lesson and realized you can't just make all of the old gear obsolete when you do a level increase. And you're going to be able to upgrade your old gear, even going back to House of Wolves, or sorry, not House of Wolves, Vault of Glass legendaries into the new 34 versions. And in fact, when you do upgrade them, apparently you don't even have to level them up again. And you do this with these orbs of light, what is referred to as etheric light, and you basically earn etheric light through either doing the Nightfall. So actually, even if you do not purchase the House of Wolves DLC, you can technically earn these light objects in the Nightfall and then upgrade your certain weapons and armor to level 34, which is a neat aspect. But you can also earn Etheric Light in the new Prison of Elders mission, replacing the raid. And again, this gives you the option to upgrade pretty much any weapon in the game. Now, this is huge, and this is why I'm talking about the Fatebringer, because the Fatebringer is poised to be propelled to one of the absolute best and most used guns in the entire game. The Fatebringer is acquired after defeating the Templar in the Vault of Glass on hard mode. Now, the Fatebringer was very, very good in its day. It was arguably the best weapon, if not the best primary at least, in the entire game. Now, that's because it had two amazing perks. Well, firstly, it was just a very, very powerful arc hand cannon. And don't underestimate arc primaries. I've always said, like, arc is kind of the most sought after element in my opinion, and it's one of the most useful things to have, simply because the only arc primaries you are able to get in the game are always available, but only on hard mode raids, whereas every other element, even though there may be less of certain types of element, every other element you can get primaries with that element doing normal mode of certain raids. So since more people just do normal mode, there's more, elements other than arc floating out there. So again, arc is actually, it's kind of one of the things I see the least in terms of weapons. So don't underestimate how useful it is to have an arc primary. Now, on top of that, Fatebringer is just, a very powerful hand cannon. It just has good baseline stats. It doesn't reload ridiculously slowly. It has a great magazine size. It's very powerful. But then there is two attributes that absolutely push it over the top. Firstly, you have Firefly. So precision kills with this weapon cause the target to explode. Now, this is a hand cannon. That's the best part. Firefly on something like an auto rifle just wouldn't be as good, but because it's the hand cannon and you're just doing so much damage with each shot and you're able to line up those precision shots, you are getting kills with headshots a lot and you are causing a ton of explosions. Now, this is combined with another attribute, explosive rounds, which basically what it does is it spreads the damage through an area. So if you shoot an enemy, it does, I think, 50% less damage and then adds an additional 50% damage in an area of an effect. So you're not actually losing any damage, like you're not losing any damage output, you're simply spreading it around in an area of effect when you're shooting an enemy. Now, Firefly and explosive rounds combine to create a weapon that is unbelievably devastating against groups of enemies. The Fatebringer is still, I still often run the Fatebringer in Crota's End. Even though it is outclassed by new 331 weapons, it is so good at taking down groups of enemies that it devastates thralls, especially on the first part. You can wipe out like 5 thralls with 1 or 2 shots when you're getting those Firefly explosions. Now, for my playstyle, this works perfectly. I mean, when you're talking about a primary, I feel that it should be able to dispatch large amounts of weak enemies extremely quickly. Primaries is the gun you're dealing with thralls, you're dealing with dregs, and you're dealing with them extremely quickly, dispatching many at once, especially even multiple with one single shot. And again, that's where the Fatebringer excels. When you have, certain primaries that are really, really good against just one target, like if you have something that does a lot of damage, is very accurate, yes, it's still going to be good against thralls, but not when a bunch of thralls are charging you. That's when you're going to want the Fatebringer. And I feel that although, the Fatebringer doesn't excel as much as I would say something like the Vision of Confluence does against a single enemy at long distance, you know, if I'm versing a single very powerful enemy, I'm just going to switch to my sniper. I mean, you've got stuff like the Black Hammer, you've got stuff like the Icebreaker that can absolutely devastate powerful single enemies. Your primary should be used for devastating multiple enemies. Again, that group of enemies, that's what your primary is taking out. Then you're taking out the single powerful enemies with your sniper or shotgun. And then you've got your rocket launcher like your Galahorn, like your Hunger of Crota. That's for your boss fights and just, again, you know, panic scenarios, stuff like that. Before the Dark Below came out, I was seeing just, you know, the number of Fatebringers increasing every day. More and more people are using the Fatebringer because it's just such a powerful gun. And then it kind of, you know, just barely fell out of usefulness. Again, people still use this gun. That's how good it is. But again, it just kind of didn't quite get there because it wasn't 331, because you couldn't upgrade it, and people switched on to new weapons, mostly just because of curiosity. You're just wanting to use the new weapons, even though they may not be as effective, and also because legitimately it wasn't quite as effective as some of the other guns because it didn't go up to 331. But now that you're able to upgrade it to the new 365 attack rating, where it will be absolutely on par with all the other weapons in the game, like no other weapons coming out in the House of Wolves are going past 365, the Fatebringer is going to come into its own. The Fatebringer, I believe, is going to be one of the most used guns in the entire game, again, because it's just that good. And don't underestimate how important it is to have a gun. You know, talking about this gun and saying how amazing it is, one of the best parts about this gun is that it's legendary. I mean, I would be saying the exact same things how amazing this gun is if it was exotic, but I wouldn't use it if it's exotic because, you know, I have a Galahorn, and I'm not trying to brag or anything, but my Galahorn pretty much always takes up a spot. And I'm sure some people, like, if they have an Icebreaker, if they have a Galahorn, if they got a favorite exotic that is using up their secondary or heavy slot, they need a legendary to fill that primary slot, and the Fatebringer always does because it isn't legendary, it doesn't hold you down. But again, now that the House of Wolves is coming out and allowing you to upgrade pretty much every gun, even the old Vault of Glass guns, I seriously think the Fatebringer is going to be one of the most useful and sought after guns in the game. So I would definitely recommend getting it if you guys haven't already. Do the Vault of Glass in hard mode now. You're going to have trouble finding people, I think, when the House of Wolves come out, simply because all your friends are going to be doing the Prison of Elders and no one's going to want to do Vault of Glass. So do it now, get the Fatebringer, and prepare for a complete Fatebringer takeover. That's what I predict. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe for more Destiny content. And as always, have a good day.